Hello, it's group number 4, and I'm Mikko Myllynen, and I'm presenting our Amazon case. So let's go. So you all know that Amazon has been really successful for many years now. A really high price per earnings ratio, and we see also from the case exhibit 1 and 2 that the sales has been really booming for many years now. But we see that this has really relied on changing the rules of business in different fields. So as you know, and as was in the case that first Amazon started with books, and they found things that are not efficient in the industry, and they changed those and got the business for themselves out of that. Most recently, Amazon has gone into the food business and also the healthcare business, and it's really become a household name, especially in the Western markets. And then, as we see here on the right corner, it's really Amazon has bought a lot of companies, and it's become kind of a house of brands. But this, success, it's mainly been in the developed markets or the Western markets. And where the problem, at least for the future, comes in for Amazon is that the forces are awakening elsewhere, as we see also in the case exhibit 5. So in the developing markets, mainly China, India, and why that is important, those countries are so big that that is where the future market and the future growth is after being a household name in the developed markets. So, for example, maybe you know Alibaba Group or AliExpress from China. They have this Singles Day sales event once a year, and last time they sold 25 billion in one day, which is huge money, and it's 14% of Amazon's full year sales. So really big forces are coming into the picture from other markets. And to put this into perspective, in USA there lives like 350 million people total, but China's middle class is said to be 300 million by itself. So at the moment, as you see here in the lower left corner, the US or North America, it's the main market at the moment, but the future market, clearly the growth can be get from China and other big developing markets. But it seems that this has not been so easy for Amazon. So in the lower right corner, you see that 2 years ago, Amazon was only 1% of the market in China, and other local companies such as Alibaba are really ruling the market. But this is not to say that Amazon wouldn't have invested in the market. As we learned from the case text, Amazon has really invested in India, really putting in money and establishing distribution centers and other facilities in the market. But in China, in India, competitive environment is also tough. So Flipkart in India, now partly owned by Walmart, and then Alibaba in China. These markets, especially in China, are also a little bit problematic because China is one-party nation. So and historically they have put the local domestic companies first and really protecting them, the companies, and also we know from China that many Western services need to be censored or are not available. For example, Amazon is not having the Amazon Prime video service in China. Also, from historical point of view, we know that China and other these kind of markets, they are very efficient to copy things. So they do really good copies of electronics, for example. So in these markets, competing with price is not so easy. So the main question is that the developing markets, China, is that the battle that should be won, and should Amazon keep on fighting for the market? Is it too big chance to give up on? So you know, China, India, middle class size of those markets. When you compare that to things, if Amazon is doing something in Finland or Sweden, the European countries, they are irrelevant in that comparison. Also, one would probably think that as Amazon is such a household name, the network externalities would apply here, but not really so, because China, India, they are such big markets that by themselves they can support Amazon-like platforms or providers. So with our analysis, we came up with 3 different solutions that we analyzed further. What are the upsides and downsides, and we will go through them more closely next. So the first solution would be to partner with the local governments, the tough market governments, to get approval, to get Amazon approved in these markets, to be kind of on the same line with the local domestic companies. Maybe, you know, buying a local company and then kind of licensing the Amazon brand to that company, and via that method to gain a foothold in the market. So, for example, we know that Facebook is now doing this kind of approach. They are establishing a subsidiary in China at the moment. But in large scale, none of the Western digital giants have done this. Google is not really available in China. Facebook is not available, and Amazon is having a really minor share of the market. Possibly it could make also sense in these markets, if not to buy whole companies, then to collaborate with the other companies that maybe not the biggest companies in the market, but some smaller ones. This, of course, like all solutions, has good sides and bad sides. So probably this could be a quick solution in a way, if you can agree with the governments. So it can be then quickly solved. And if you are kind of an approved name in the market, then you can shape the markets and shape how will e-commerce look in the developing markets in the future. But of course, negative sides can be that, especially now at times when there are trade wars between China and US, this could cause negative backlash in Western countries. And if you take away something from the service, like Amazon Prime Video service, or LinkedIn is self-censoring, and the experience is not the same. And with the governments, the regulations can change, so they can just decide that next day you need to obey some new rules. Second solution is positioning as premium provider. So as said before, in these developing markets, competing with price price and efficiency, that might not be an option. So maybe then switching into premium provider. So this is of course a really big decision, because now Amazon has been really like operationally excellent type of approach, but this would be kind of a more customer intimate type strategy. But we think that this actually is something that Amazon is already doing, and it would fit the strategy. So Amazon recently bought Whole Foods, which is a brick and mortar grocery store in US, and with that deal they have hundreds of brick and mortar locations already in US, and it's of course, as you know, it's a premium food, more premium and expensive food, and like a more premium experience also. And maybe you have heard also that they've been introducing new way of buying things physically, so a shop with no cashier, so you can just walk out. So maybe this is something that Amazon is now also transforming the physical buying. Also, Amazon has been getting into healthcare, so together with Berkshire Hathaway, which is the Warren Buffett company, and JP Morgan, they are piloting to provide healthcare services for their 1 million employees. Probably this is not the only thing that Amazon wants to do with this, so maybe they offer healthcare services also in the future more broadly. Amazon is also now doing movies and TV series. I think they got their first Oscar already, and also Amazon could, be as a kind of a certificate of quality. So you can get your cheap copies in Alibaba or AliExpress, but you can get the real Western products from Amazon. And probably, Amazon has something in the pipeline in these terms also for the future, as at least the Western communities, they are moving away from just buying things to buying services and premium experiences. Again, good sides and bad sides. So if you are not competing with price, you have a really like a premium experience. That is something that it's much more difficult to copy by the competitors. It's also in line with the recent collaborations or acquisitions that Amazon is doing. And as said, this kind of approach would work probably both in Western markets and developing markets, because also the Western markets, they are going in more experiences and less about things. Bad sides, it's, the people like different things in different markets. So it's more difficult to copy things from one market to another market. So it would, decrease the efficiency. And being premium, it's more easy in some fields than others. So, for example, the China copies of iPhone or China copies of some other electronics, it's difficult field to compete in, because the copies are actually quite good, also in quality terms. Lastly, maybe you could keep investing in China, but not go all in for China, but also to look at other developing markets and other Asia Pacific markets, because in order to get significant market share in Amazon, it would probably require a huge investment of money, a huge investment of time, and it would be kind of an all-in situation to some extent, and could tie up resources for Amazon. So it's a high risk, high reward kind of a case. So if you little bit decrease, you would not go all in for China. So maybe you can then have more focus on India, Australia, other Asia Pacific markets that are big, and some of them are also really wealthy markets, and estimated to be really significant on the e-commerce side. So this third solution would decrease the risk and release resources to really do development in other markets if China is kind of a too big problem to solve for Amazon. But of course, reward is lower, and as said in the beginning, Amazon is having a high price to earnings coefficient, so price to earnings ratio. So probably investors would not like this if Amazon is not ruling China also. So basically, our recommendation is that this is the problem that Amazon needs to solve for next 10 to 20 years if they want to have growth for the next 20 years. Now they have really been the household name in the Western markets and the developed markets, but to get growth for next 10, 20, 30 years, they need to solve how to be meaningful player in developing markets such as China and India. So probably the best solution would be to go with our recommendations 1 and 2, or even with kind of a combination of these. So partnering with the local governments and kind of localizing Amazon into these markets one way or the other, agreeing to terms with the governments. And second, as price and efficiency competition and kind of from a logistic point of view, the user experience competition is something that it's really difficult to win for Amazon against Alibaba or other providers in these markets. So then probably it would be better to, in these markets, especially in these markets, to focus more on being the premium provider, providing something else and some better experiences from the service product point of view that these kind of a copy companies cannot provide, and thereby differentiating yourself in the market. So this is our recommendation, and we see that this is the problem Amazon needs to solve to drive growth. Here are some of our references that you can go through, which we came across while doing this case study. And thank you for your attention. And during the seminar day, we are happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you.